All right, guys. So our next topic here is some news from the Cloverfield world. Surprisingly, word has come out, they are going to be doing a Cloverfield sequel, a true sequel, because they've been doing these kind of like spin-off-ish movies with like 10 Cloverfield Lane and then the Cloverfield Paradox. I can't remember. Was there another one? I don't really remember. I know there were those two, and they had plans on doing more and making it like an anthology kind of series, but now there's supposedly going to be a direct sequel. It's not going to be found footage, though, which, I don't know, kind of makes sense. Found footage hasn't really been a very popular... It wasn't even popular back when Cloverfield did it, really. If anything, that's one of the things that made it kind of popular again, was that movie, if I had to think about
Yeah,
it.
you had Blair Witch that really
Mhm.
popularized it, but then it kind of died down. It went into a lull, and then Cloverfield, brought it back a little bit.
Yeah, and then Chronicle came out too around I think around the same time Cloverfield.
Chronicle's a good movie, man.
Dude, here's the funny thing. I've never sat through and finished Chronicle.
Really?
And despite doing this story on this show, I've never finished Cloverfield. I've literally watched both of the 10 Cloverfield Lane, good movie. I like that movie.
Yeah.
Cloverfield Paradox, not a good movie, but I watched that. Like, I don't know what it is. I've literally sat down and watched Cloverfield, I think 3 times, and something has always came up to make me not finish it. So I've seen like most of the movie, just not the whole movie.
I saw it in the theater, so I had nothing else pulling me away from the end of it. But
Yeah.
I can't. I wish I could say you missed something. That you should really need to finish it. But yeah,
I've seen most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know the big monster dude and the little fight in the city, and they hit the thing, and it goes down, and then I forget how it ends, if I'm being completely honest with you. But what I find, and I told you this before, if you want to put your tinfoil hat on here, because it says that J.J. Abrams is coming back to produce this thing, and that if you don't know, like J.J. Abrams recently signed like a first look deal with Warner Brothers and everything. But to that point where you suggested, well, maybe because I talked about this before the show with John, and I said that maybe this leads a little bit more credence into J.J. Abrams actually doing the Superman movie. Because there's been rumors ever since J.J. signed the first look deal with Warner Brothers that they wanted him to direct Superman. And then there was an article like not too long ago that I think we may have covered on the show, where he was doing it and is looking to bring Henry Cavill back, is like what the most recent word was. And then in this article, it goes on to say that they have hired for the Cloverfield sequel here Joe Barton, who has recently done was a showrunner for the Robert Pattinson Batman prequel series that is going to be dropping on HBO Max. To that point, when I brought this up to you, and it, like, obviously, J.J. Abrams is a guy who works in, the industry, and Joe Barton is a guy who works in the industry, so you don't have to really look any further than that as to how they got in touch with each other, is they're both, working in the movie world. So, I mean, it makes sense as just random people. But this thing is done because you said, too, like, maybe it's just because like they're both working at Warner Brothers and they just met and whatever. But Cloverfield is a Paramount movie, so their meeting would have had to have happened on different terms. So my tinfoil hat suggestion, unless they knew each other, I don't know, they could be best friends for all I know. I have no idea. But my tinfoil hat theory is that there's like this is kind of being presumptuous too, thinking that WB has like a DC meeting that actually takes place between them, because they don't really seem to have very concrete plans, just based on everything else. But again, this is
they should have a meeting. But
exactly, they definitely should. And if they did, maybe there's a theoretical meeting that took place between the upcoming DC project team, in which J.J. Abrams being on the Superman movie, and then this Joe Barton fella being on the Batman thing, were in a room together, and that's how they met. And then J.J. was like, "Hey, I'm doing Cloverfield. Do you want to write it?" You know what I mean? Maybe.
I don't think your tinfoil hat has to be that big for that to be true, because I mean, if DC has finally gotten smart, and God, I pray that they have, but if they've finally gotten smart about how they're building out this universe, then they do need to get all those people, all the various entities that either have something in production or have something on the, in pre-production, or even have something that they're just, attached to for a future project. They need to have all those people in the same room so that they're all on the same page. And definitely, maybe JJ and this guy were in the same room talking about a DC stuff because this guy's involvement with Batman and JJ's involvement with Superman, and they liked each other. And then they started saying like, "Hey, what else you got going on?" And JJ's like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing Cloverfield. Would you be interested in trying to come over and do that with us?" So yeah, definitely, I think it's not that much of a leap to think that that may be where this was birthed.
Yeah, I mean, the only other obvious, I guess, scenario is the fact that Matt Reeves did the first Cloverfield movie. Matt Reeves is doing the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. So that's, but at the same time, that still means the DC world could still be a thing because maybe Matt Reeves was also in the room with JJ because of the Superman thing. Maybe it could have just been a bad robot meeting and it had nothing to do with the DC group of people, but I'd like to just assume that this Superman movie is happening because we need a Man of Steel 2. So I'm going to hope it has something to do with that. But I'm excited to see where this Cloverfield sequel thing goes because the Cloverfield Paradox movie, I don't know. It was not good, but it wasn't like, I don't think it was a dumpster fire of anything. It just kind of like went off the rails in the end.
That was direct to Netflix one, right? They
Mhm.
got like spontaneously sprung. It was like, hey, by the way, there's a Cloverfield movie coming out and it's out today and it's on Netflix. Like you can go watch it now.
Yeah, I think
Right?
if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly, they dropped the trailer during the Super Bowl, and they were like, and that's when
Available
it happened. Yeah,
after.
like available now on Netflix or whatever.
That's right. You're
And it was
right.
the
I forgot
first
about
trailer
that.
for it, and it just said, "Oh, it's also here now." And then you watch the
Yeah.
movie, and you're like, "Oh, that's why it went straight to Netflix because it wasn't very good." But
Yeah, so I'm, I'm willing to give it a chance. The Cloverfield concept is, now that they're actually making Godzilla movies again and they're making King Kong movies,
good time.
I wonder, the timing could be good, but it also Cloverfield I think filled that void because when Cloverfield came out, I think we were right after the attempted reboot of Godzilla, the kind of lame. You remember that they tried to reboot Godzilla in the maybe mid '90s or so. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, with Matthew Broderick?
With Matthew Broderick,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And it didn't go over that well. And so I think Cloverfield kind of filled that kind of monster invading the city, invading Earth kind of deal. And so I wonder if basically what I'm trying to get at, taking the long way, sorry, is that I wonder if now that Godzilla is kind of back in theaters and Kong's back in theaters, if Cloverfield's going to feel like kind of like the lame version of those movies.
Yeah, the lesser. Yeah.
The lesser, yeah, he's not established, but I do hope. I hope it's a good movie. I think the reason that I kind of poo-pooed the ending of Cloverfield was just, I think I was hyped in that movie. The movie was a good movie, and I was excited to finally see the monster and see the monster do some stuff. But because it's found footage and because the story is what it is, you never really get that. You get a couple glimpses, you get a couple shots of the monster, but that's it. You don't get to see the monster really wreaking havoc and destruction, which for me, kaiju movies, that's what I come for. I come for the destruction. I come for the crazy big giant monster. So to not get that much of it in the movie, I think I just left a little disappointed. And that is coloring my perspective on it.
Well, that's why a lot of people didn't like the first Godzilla movie. Not the Matthew Broderick one, but the one that's the current Godzilla's, because
The current run.
Yeah, he was in like 15 minutes of the movie. And most of it was just like shots of his leg or shots of his head. You never really got that big, wide shot. I mean, there were very few and far between. But
like the shot of Kong punching Godzilla in the latest trailer. It's such a good. That's all I want. That's all I want. I want to be able to see them, and I want to see what's happening. I don't want this implied stuff. I understand that it's hard it's probably cost a ton of money in CG. It probably is a hard shot to actually do those things. But if you're going to do the movies, then put the time and effort and money into it to do it that way.
Yeah, just do it well because I feel like it's like in the first Godzilla movie, they barely showed any kaiju stuff, but then in King of the Monsters, it was just like throwing spaghetti on the wall, but the spaghetti's
Yeah.
kaijus. You know what I mean? If anything, what I really would like out of this, another great shot in that Kong trailer, though, the Godzilla vs Kong trailer, is the very end tag when he's like going Thor on him with the hammer, and he's doing the nuclear breath, and that would kill Godzilla, though. I said that when I was talking about last week, like when the trailer came out, like that would literally cut his head off, and you know it's not going to.
So I thought of this, and I actually saw it somewhere else, but I swear I thought of it first. I'm not just stealing somebody else's. Do you think that Godzilla in that shot is just a placeholder and that there's something else that's supposed to be
like
in that
it's mecha
and so when we
Godzilla?
Yeah, exactly. Like when we get to the actual, because they've done that before with shows and movies and stuff where they digitally insert a character that actually doesn't belong there, or they insert a scene in the trailer that never shows up in the movie because it was just for the trailer. So yeah, I kind of wonder, because like you said, that would kill Godzilla. He's going to lop Godzilla's head off with that Thor hammer.
Well, especially as he's doing that, it's getting charged with nuclear energy, and then he just and you see the whole hit. It's like I was just waiting to see Godzilla's head rolling off camera. Like it was insane. So yeah, that's a good point. That could be. I just feel like when you throw a scene to that degree, and then it's just completely not in the movie, like unless that scene actually happens and they just copy paste Mechagodzilla there, I think people get kind of pissed off. Like that's like directly misleading. Like you remember that Ryan Gosling Drive movie?
Yeah.
I love that movie, but like I didn't watch it in theaters or anything. I watched it like after the fact, like couple years later, and completely missed this whole like marketing fiasco. But like there were people who filed lawsuits against that movie for having misleading marketing for it because they thought it was going to be Fast and the Furious, not some like high tense drama movie.
Dark,
and but yeah, it's like that same kind of situation if you do that.
Yeah, well, I guess the most famous example of marketing not being accurate to what was it is the Hulk showing up in the Infinity War trailer in Wakanda, which obviously never happened. So I'm wondering if this isn't the same thing with the Godzilla trailer.
Yeah, and that one, to your point, is not like misleading because Bruce Banner is there when it happens.
True.
And he's just in the Hulkbuster, so it's like they just replaced him there because it would have spoiled the whole arc for the movie. So if they just did a copy paste thing and that's actually Mechagodzilla, that would be the exact same scenario. If that scene's just not there, that's a big problem.
What if they rotate the camera just like 30 degrees? And while from the shot that you have in the trailer, it looks like Godzilla's charging it and Kong's going to hit Godzilla with it. What if Godzilla is charging it and Kong is actually jumping to Mechagodzilla, who's just off frame, and so he's charging it?
It's like a tag team thing.
Give him the extra boost or whatever.
That's cool, man. That would be cool.
That's
even better. That's like some tag team action, dude. That's super cool.
If I don't get that shot in the movie now, I'm going to be disappointed. Damn it!
Yeah, that's why we don't speculate. That's why we shouldn't speculate.
Right.
You just
stop.
You picture the movie in your head, and then you get disappointed when you don't get what you wanted to see, man. Especially when you have cool ideas like that, because that would be cool. A nice tag team duo kind of thing would be. That's just like when freaking like Iron Man does his little beam off of like Cap's shield or
shield.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Yeah,
or when when Thor charged him up in Endgame, he used his hammer. Yep.
Yeah, man, like that'd be cool. I would love to see Kong and Godzilla work. I just don't know how well they would work together, not being like intelligent beings. And they just meet and they were just fighting in the city, but now we're gonna do like these crazy combos on Mechagodzilla or something.
Yeah, like Kong like drawing pictures in the rubble of the city and Godzilla to show Godzilla what he wants to do.
I would pay to have that scene too. That would be great. Just like the game plan for it. Yeah, man. I would hope though too with this to wrap up the Cloverfield portion of it. I think the one thing with the Cloverfield stuff that I think they missed the mark on with the whole anthology thing was that they because like they went with 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was like spoiler alert, it was like an alien invasion thing, just
Mhm,
and then with the Cloverfield Paradox, it wasn't really anything. It was like a time travel multiple dimension thing, didn't really have anything to do with anything. Like the Cloverfield monster was at the end of it, but it's like kind of confusing as to what they're really trying to imply other than multiple realities to some degree. But I think like what they should have done or could have done, I'm not a writer by any means at all, like in this, but maybe focus on what made the franchise like popular, which was the kaiju thing, and maybe just
mhm.
introduce different types of kaiju. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe if they do this, like, go back to their roots with this Cloverfield 2 thing, it's just like there's just some new kaiju thing. Like, you know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
what I just kind of hope they do. But then again, your point of it just being looked at as kind of the lesser Godzilla would kind of come into play. But I don't know. I just feel like that's what they should have been doing the whole time. Like, but I guess what 10 Cloverfield Lane aside, because I did like that movie. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But question is, guys, what do you think about this Cloverfield 2 coming out and it not being a found footage thing? Like, that's is that something that you're like kind of like more on board for now that found footage isn't really like a thing anymore, or is it something that kind of based on this being Cloverfield, maybe think it was something they should kind of go back to if they're actually going to do a direct sequel? Whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below.